Hey guys, welcome back to my virtual dog training playlist. And welcome to episode 3. That's right, we're on episode 3 already. And in this episode, we're working with another family who just recently rescued a dog and they're having some problems. And some of the topics that we're going to be reviewing today are refresh my memory. How long has she been with you guys?
Since Sunday.
Sunday, right, okay. And how old is she?
About 14 weeks. She was born February 11th.
Oh, she's real puppy.
Yeah.
I guess we'll start with the crating, because I know the crating was a primary and urgent concern. I saw the videos. How is she doing with the whining when you leave the room?
Well, I just put her in and she whined for about a minute, not a full screaming.
Oh, that's it? Wow.
Whining a little bit right now.
Okay.
40 minutes ago, my 11-year-old, she gave her lunch like that in the crate, in and out of the crate. And then when she was still sitting in there watching TV, she went in and I think she went in waiting for another treat and then just went to sleep.
Oh, good. Nice.
So I took her out for a walk just now and put her back in with a treat, and she's quiet now.
Okay. Now,
there she goes.
yeah. As soon as you say she's quiet, they start up.
You hear her talking, and then she.
Yeah, that's her, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I hear the hound. Yeah, so I saw the video exercises you were doing. That was really good. Keep up with that.
Okay.
Even just randomly do what you were doing. Even if you're not feeding her, just with treats, kind of let her go in, close the door. When she sits and she's quiet, let her right back out, all that kind of stuff. The only thing I would change is, we're all guilty of this because we're trying to create positive association with the crate. When she's in there and you're just standing there, you kept talking to her and kind of praising her.
Oh, okay.
Which, that's how we're human. We want to encourage them. But if she's sitting and quiet, good girl, and that's all we need, then we need to move from the positive association to as matter of fact as possible, that the crate is just part of her life, right?
Okay.
So sleeping, I know, was an issue. What have you been doing the last couple of nights?
So I had said to you on Sunday and Monday, I slept on the couch with her.
Right.
And Tuesday night, I tried putting her in my daughter's room, and my daughter's 11, so she's old enough for that. And she came out after 2 hours and cried. But the door was closed, so she cried in my daughter's room. So she brought her in. I took her outside. She peed. Put her back in there. She stayed in there another 2 hours. She woke up. I took her out. I think actually there was a thunderstorm.
Okay.
So that woke her up. She was crying. So that night, I think I was up like 4 times before I finally just laid in the room. And as soon as I laid in the room, she stayed in the room.
Right.
And then that was Tuesday night. Wednesday night. Well, last night we put her in there. So I guess that was Wednesday night. So last night we put her in my daughter's room again, and she slept for 4 hours in there. And then then she walked into my room, and I took her. It was raining at the time, so I didn't take her out, but she peed in the room as soon as we went back into the bedroom. So I think the thunderstorm last night woke her up again.
Okay.
And so I wasn't going to take her out. I was going to try and just see if she would go back to bed. But as soon as we walked back into my daughter's room, she peed on the floor. Then we went back to bed.
Gotcha.
Just put a towel on it, and then she slept the rest of the night.
Okay.
I laid in there with her just because I was tired.
Right. Okay. So now, you have another crate in your daughter's room?
No, because she's never slept in a crate. So the first night on Sunday, we didn't get back here with her until like 10:30 at night.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
I just slept with her on the couch because that's what she's used to sleeping with her previous owners.
Mm-hmm.
So Monday night, I had tried putting her in the crate downstairs, and she cried for like a half an hour, and then she was quiet for maybe 20 minutes, and then she started crying again. So I just slept on the couch again with her that night.
And you let her out while she was vocal.
I waited. So as soon as she heard me walk downstairs, she stopped crying. So I just kind of walked around downstairs and did some stuff for a couple minutes, and
Good.
then I left.
Okay. So, and I mean, you'll have to talk to Tony about certain things. I mean, and you'll get a copy of what we're talking about now as well. But when it comes to puppies, am I echoing to you?
No.
Okay. Must be on my end. I'm of the mindset puppies should be crated when they're unsupervised.
Right.
Regardless, even if they're perfectly behaved, they should be crated when unsupervised. I didn't realize she was a puppy. So even more so. So if you guys are sleeping, she's unsupervised.
Yeah.
Right, because you can't see her, you can't watch her. So, and think, especially with housebreaking, crate training is an important component to graduating to having the whole house, or, first a room, then 2 rooms, then the whole house. So, and again, that you'll have to, I guess you and Tony would decide that. I'm not sure how, what Tony's policies are. I just know from a training and rearing standpoint, a puppy left to their own devices is unsafe. Right. And I'm sure she's teething. So, if she chews on something when you're sleeping, she can get hurt, obviously. And then the soiling is a problem, peeing and pooping and things along those lines. So, what's today? Today's Thursday? Today's Thursday. Friday. Jesus. And I got news for you. This has nothing to do with COVID. I never know what day of the week it is. Yeah, so it's Friday, so I guess you guys don't have work over the weekend, or you do?
We don't.
Okay. If at all possible, you gotta let her cry it out.
Okay.
That means that she may have an accident in the crate, which is fine because she is already having accidents in the house. So at least it's confined to the crate for now. Yeah, so even if she has an accident in the crate, that's okay, because she's having accidents in the house. So, we got to deal with crate training first, including obviously her getting acclimated to the crate. But also it sounds like there's a level of separation anxiety that she has for you as well. So that's something we need to kind of nip in the bud as well.
Okay.
So because if she's experiencing anxiety, if you're her person, if she's choosing you, and every time she's feeling anxious, that will obviously materialize into vocalization, and then you present yourself, it almost validates her anxiety, and it's not necessarily causing it, but it could perpetuate it. So you got to suck it up for a night and kind of see what happens.
Okay.
there's no good way of saying that. You guys might want to put some pillows between you guys on the bed in case you start throwing punches. No.
So I felt bad pulling her from, she was with a young couple, and the only time she was crated was, I guess if they went out, I didn't really specifically talk to her about that, but if she was only crated when she could see them in the room, pretty much, because they said she would go crazy if they couldn't see her. She didn't like being in the crate anyway, but she would go crazy if she couldn't see them, and they were in a condo with units above them and beside them. So they said we pretty much spoiled her because we didn't want her to bark and cry. So then I felt bad leaving her in the crate downstairs when we were sleeping, because she was so used to sleeping with people.
Yeah, and she is only 3 months old, so it's not like this is going on for years, right?
Okay.
So now, are you fostering or are you adopting her?
We're technically fostering to adopt.
Okay, gotcha.
But the older dog, that first video that Tony sent you, our older dog is still not really, doesn't want to play with her, she agitates her a lot. So we were trying not to have her in our room because that's our dog's space.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, a video? I don't remember seeing a video from Tony.
When Tony first got to talk to you about us, she had sent you a video.
All right, hold on one sec. Foster to adopt now is a different conversation than if you were just fostering, right? If you're just fostering, then I'll probably start talking about, we as fosters, we have a job to do. We got to kind of bite the bullet and, you know, keep our job and prepare the puppy for the next stop. If you're a foster to adopt, then we're talking about sucking it up now so you don't have to deal with this for the next 14 years. Right? So fostering an anxious pup who isn't really crate trained is a lot easier than trying to deal with this knowing that you're going to be dealing with it for several years.
Right.
Nevertheless, our goal is the same, obviously, is to get her quiet in the crate. And, you know, it's hard because our human emotions come into play, but you just can't feel bad for how she used to live. And, you know, a very common theme with crate training issues and people who live in condos or apartments is noise, because they have neighbors and sometimes they have HOAs. And I'm not sure if you have close neighbors or noise is an issue for your neighbors, is it?
We moved her. We had her in the crate right here next to the window, and our houses are about 15 feet apart. So
Gotcha.
I know our neighbor sleeps with his window open, so we moved the crate to the other side of the house in a different room.
Okay.
I'm sure he could hear it.
We can hear her down the block. I mean, with our red bone, people in the neighborhood a couple blocks away are like, "Oh, that's your dog." So.
Yeah, I know. I have it here. I'm down in North Carolina, and I mean, I don't even know how far away. There's this group of hounds, and I don't know where they are. I know they're a good distance, but I hear them like they're like 2 houses away.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, you think you guys can do a little experiment over the weekend to see how long she will actually bark and whine for?
Yeah, I think I'd probably rather have her downstairs than in a bedroom.
So yeah, that was my question. So. Should we get a second crate in the bedroom, or should we use the same crate that she's in during the day?
So, I mean, it's twofold. I mean, having 2 crates is certainly fine. A lot of people do that just because they want their dogs sleeping in the same room with them. You could certainly do that. Then I guess your daughter's room would be the room of choice then, right?
Yeah.
For a second crate. So because she already exhibited this behavior in your daughter's room, right? Because it's separation from Cindy, not necessarily the room.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll still be able to kind of let her bark it out, but then your 11-year-old daughter is going to be the one getting the brunt of the volume. Right. So, hey, you know, if she's a bad kid, then put the dog in it. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. Well, she'll be happy to watch TV all night. She'll just be like, I'll stay up and watch TV.
Yeah. So, but I guess if we train her in the crate downstairs later on, moving her to another room, we can do that. Or
yeah. So because the purpose is for her to get over her anxiety, and it is probably twofold. It's probably crate anxiety, but it's also separation anxiety. So regardless, we don't have to isolate specifically which one it is. We need to start simple and start conditioning or counter conditioning her behavior that when she's quiet, she gets out of the crate. So as opposed to, let's say you put her to bed tonight at 10 o'clock and she barks for a half hour or an hour. Ideally, she settles down and you're still awake. So you could run downstairs and take her out. Okay. Right? Because now she's quiet. It's that first time that she quiets down is when you want to let her out. Normally we let hours go by, but we haven't done that yet. So we got to start simple.
So like now, she quieted down. Should we go get her?
You could, absolutely. Yeah, if you want to go let her out. But I would say take her right outside because she'll probably have to pee.
Yeah. Well, I just took her 15 minutes ago. She went right before we put her in.
Yeah, she'll have to pee.
Yeah. What I've been trying to do is walk her and she pees and then I put her in. So generally the last couple of days it's been yesterday and today, I guess 3 days ago, yesterday and today, I've been like trying the crate after that, like feed her, play with her for a little bit, take her for a walk, and then put her in the crate because I know she went. Because the first day, 3 days ago or 4 days ago, we tried putting her in the crate and she cried and she settled down. We were eating dinner. That's what it was. Tuesday night we were eating dinner and she settled down, but we were still eating. So we were going to see if she could go a little bit longer. And then she started crying again. And it sounded a little bit different. Like just, she was more upset crying. But when she finally settled down again and I went to get her, she had peed in the crate. So then I felt bad. But I'm like, I missed, I missed it. But
and that's part of learning her different vocalizations, because she probably will have a little bit of a stress tone to her barking or whining if she has to go to the bathroom, as opposed to her regular, oh my God, where's mommy?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just a matter of getting to know her better. That's all.
Okay.
But yeah, so, and then if you don't put water in the crate, do you?
No.
Okay, good. Yeah, she doesn't need water in the crate. And then at night, what time do you put her to bed?
We've been trying to put her to bed like 9:30 because they said her schedule was 9 to 5. She was sleeping 9 to 5, and Steve has to get up at 6, so he generally tries to go to bed at 9. So that's what time we've been, like 9:30 is when kind of lights out has been.
Okay, and is that what time you go to bed?
No, I could stay up later. The last couple of days I was very tired. I had a complete meltdown yesterday and like cried. The umbrella fell on me and like closed up on me outside.
Oh
and
no.
Steve was laughing at me because I broke it by accident. And so I was trying to fix it and he's giving me duct tape and it kept folding on itself. And he just kept laughing at me. And finally I was like, I'm so tired and I'm grumpy. Can you just help me? And his face was just like, what just happened? I'm crying. My daughter's like, are you crying or laughing? I'm both. I'm so tired.
Oh, I don't mean to laugh, but that's funny.
Oh, it is. Afterward, he was like, I'm sorry. I've never seen you do that before.
Yeah. Who would have thought, of all the things that we've been dealing with everybody for the past few months, the umbrella, that's the one that, the tipping point.
Hi. There she is.
Aw, she's pretty.
No. This is another thing when she wants to play, obviously, like with Ruby, she's biting and then she's biting on us. So we've been using a spray bottle and squirting her with water. And that seems to be working pretty well. Okay.
Yeah, teething is, I think it's the hardest thing to deal with puppies because those freaking puppy teeth are so sharp, and they're in pain. So they have to chew and a lot of times it's our hands. Anyway, back to her sleeping schedule. So it doesn't matter what her sleeping schedule was.
Okay.
She's not with them anymore. She needs to get on your schedule. So if you're up later, you could put her to bed later.
Right.
And Steve gets up at 6, so you can shorten her sleep and crate time.
Okay.
Right? Because you're up later, Steve's up early, as opposed to just putting her in at 9 and, then she has to go a full 8 or 9 hours in the crate, as opposed to maybe putting her to bed at 10 or 11. I'm not sure what time you go to bed.
I could stay up and watch TV or whatever. Like sometimes I go to bed early, sometimes I don't.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you don't have to stay up just for her, but if you're going to be up, then let her out one more time before you go to bed. This way, we can ease her bladder stress, right? And then, with separation anxiety through the night or whatever. And then the flip side of that is, and obviously this is going to get better, but initially it's not. So can Steve sleep through the barking when he goes to bed at 9? So that's
earplugs.
He has earplugs. He didn't even wake up when the other one threw up on the bed this morning. So
that's fun. I joke around. My wife, you heard the expression, "Oh, you could sleep through a hurricane." My wife can literally sleep through a hurricane. Me, one little crack of a branch, I'm up the whole night.
Yeah. I'm usually, if I have nothing to worry about, I can sleep deeply, but I haven't been, and that's probably why, even though I've been sleeping in chunks, like I haven't been sleeping well.
Yeah. And you got, that whole maternal thing kind of kicks in too. So you're probably sleeping much lighter because you're worried about her. But here's the thing, when she's in the crate, the worst case scenario is she might poop on herself. Like that's the worst case scenario. When she's not crated, when she's unsupervised, the worst case scenario is she can get into something and seriously get harmed. Right. So there's, keep that in the forefront of your mind when you feel yourself, feeling a little guilty.
Okay.
Crating, it's a prelude to housebreaking, and it's setting her up for the next, 12 to 14 years of her life, right? So we're kind of putting her on lockdown now so she can have more freedom later, because dealing with a 14-week-old puppy is a lot better and easier than dealing with a 1-year-old puppy that's not housebroken and has separation anxiety, because her, right now she's supervised. You can monitor her chewing and give her stuff to chew on. A year old, she can, destroy that sofa that you're sitting on in literally 2 minutes.
Okay.
So, just think big picture. That's all.
Okay.
Now, as it relates, let me see if that video came through. See if it came.
And one of the things, while you're looking for that, I watched that video that you sent me of your Facebook Live. So when we're going to put her in there, I should put nothing on the floor.
Well,
as of right now, there was a rug in there because I've been monitoring her kind of in there. But if we're gonna leave her in there all night long, I should put nothing on the floor. No fleece blanket or anything.
Well, yeah, it depends on the dog. Definitely no carpet, because if she chews that and ingests it, that's a health hazard.
Okay.
But fleece blankets, I get like the cheap. I don't even know if I have one up here. I don't. I just get like the cheap fleece blankets from Walmart. They're like $2.50.
Yeah.
There's no stuffing in them. There's a very fine stitch on the outside of it, but nothing crazy. I use them, well, not just for puppies, but for all the dogs that I take in here at my house, but especially for puppies. They're easy to wash. A dog her size, if she chews a piece and ingests it, it's going to pass right through her system.
Okay.
Intact, you will literally see fleece in her shit if she chewed it. But if she pees, it's going to absorb it, and it's not going to like form a puddle or anything. So it'll be a little cleaner for her too, and they're easy to throw in the wash.
Okay. So you think at her age with teething, it's still okay to put a fleece in there?
Yeah, a flat fleece blanket should be fine. I mean, your other option, if you want to be a little more cautious, you could just toss a whole bunch of paper towels in there, like, just kind of undo the roll a little and just throw some in there. That'll absorb some of the moisture if she pees on herself. But has she chewed any blankets or the carpet that's in there?
No. She came with some stuffed animal toys. She doesn't really go after them much. Okay. We fostered in April for Tony, and that puppy ate the fleece tail off of a lizard, and then I was panicked because I was nauseous for 24 hours until she pooped it out. And I called Tony, and she's like, "Oh," and Tony was upset. And we were both worried, but it came out, thankfully.
Yeah, the fleece blanket should be fine. Just remember, nothing with stuffing in it, nothing with a lot of stitching, no towels, because if she chews a towel, then the towels they shred and get real stringy. No comforters, no pillows, nothing. You know what I mean? Nothing with stuffing that she can ingest and harm herself. Like I said, the fleece is, if you're gonna put something in there, the fleece is the easiest way to do it. So this is the safest one to use as bedding.
It's a minute long.
It's okay. Yeah, keep it there. I can see it.
Usually she So that was mild. She was just barking at her, but I haven't taken videos of her again. But she usually is running at her nonstop, runs at her, bumps into her with her body, grabs her ears, bites her tail, bites her flank. Looks like she wants to wrestle, she tries to grab her with her arms, and Ruby just doesn't want to wrestle, and will just bark at her every once in a while, I think she's gotten a hold of her and she'll yelp, but she keeps going.
Okay, so I can only go by what I just saw.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like two dogs are figuring things out.
Okay.
I didn't see anything there that would concern me other than the fact that your couch is potentially a boxing ring. And again, I don't dictate what rules people implement in their own homes. It's to each his own. I prefer that inside the home we don't play. That outside is for play. Now you have a puppy, so that's really challenging. Can you guys hear me? Because you froze up again.
I can. I'm going to join on the phone again.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I
I'll
can
wait.
hear you, but yeah, you're first.
How old is Ruby?
6.
Oh, okay. So she's very capable then. Okay. So yeah, when push came to shove, Ruby actually made Sydney down just by looking at her.
Okay.
At least that's what I saw in the video. So it was almost like, Ruby was giving her a couple of warnings, and then she really took a stern look at her, and then Sydney went into a down. It was kind of like, okay, that was different.
Yeah, she's definitely, so Sydney's definitely kind of yields to Ruby, but then comes right back. Her fear isn't very long lasting.
Yeah, and it's
been pretty composed. I mean, I haven't seen her really get a hold of her. I mean, she'll bark loud, but even today when Sydney got her tail, Ruby was like barked, but didn't.
Yeah, the main thing is if Ruby barks or growls or gives her a quick look or an air snap, that's when Sydney should stop whatever she's doing. But that stop is only for a second, and then it's back, right? And
Yeah.
but that's how Sydney's going to develop, or how Ruby is going to set thresholds for Sydney.
Okay.
Right? Sydney's still going to be her puppy bouncy thing, right? But how much can she physically escalate with Ruby? Ruby will dictate that.
Okay.
So as you know, and it seems like Ruby's pretty balanced. At least it was in that video, and very tolerant. But she will correct if she needs to.
Mm-hmm.
Problems often arise if a dog has a short fuse or has no correction skills whatsoever, and they just get beat the hell on by puppies, right? Mm-hmm. Which isn't fair to the other dog. But it seems Ruby had things under control, at least in that video. Mm-hmm. If you think it's escalating or you captured different video, feel free to send it to me so I could see it. But both of their body language was good throughout that quick little video, and Ruby's communication were very clear. We got a couple of glitches through Zoom when I was watching the video, so it might have skipped a couple of frames, but for the most part, it looked like they were working it out, and Ruby was setting thresholds for Sydney.
Okay.
Yeah.
The thing we worried about before, one of the main reason we were doing foster to adopt was because Ruby food guards treats and her food. She's actually doing pretty well with Sydney, but all the last couple of fosters we had, you couldn't give another dog a treat in front of Ruby, like, because she snarls, she snaps, she sounds vicious.
So she food guards only towards dogs or towards you?
Yeah, no, only towards dogs.
Okay.
Even the kids when they were little could feed her, take her bone away, take her food away. It's just dogs.
Yeah, so because Ruby seems to have pretty balanced communication skills, it's pretty normal for dogs. I mean, dogs aren't supposed to eat out of the same bowl.
Right.
I mean,
yeah. Even if they were together, my friend used to say when she would watch Ruby, she'd be like, all right, I had to feed them separate, because she would say Ruby would eat hers, and she'd be like, all right, Noelle, this is my food and your food's my food too. So she would eat her food and go after my friend's dog's food.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously Ruby's not aggressive, but I mean, I've seen the most passive dogs get into fights over food.
That's what we were worried about. So when we fostered in April, we thought about doing foster to adopt, but that puppy was definitely part pit bull. So I was worried if they ever did get into a fight that I wouldn't be able to separate them, or a pit bull could really hurt Ruby.
Yeah, I mean, you still have that risk. So
Yeah.
you're going to have a same-sex household. So you don't know what Sydney's going to be like when she's mature.
Right.
Right? 2-3 years from now, Sydney is going to start maturing. Ruby is going to be on the decline.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, Ruby, even at 9 or 10 years old, she'll still be capable, but nature's going to take its course. If they ever got into a fight 3 years from now, Ruby's probably going to lose.
Yeah.
And yeah, I doubt they will, but that's why feeding separately, they should have their own feeding stations. Feeding should be a structured event. And right now with the puppy, it's easy because the puppy should be eating in the crate anyway.
Right.
But remember, resource conflict, whether it's food or toys or bones or whatever, right? It could be anything, any kind of resource that could cause conflict. So if Ruby guards food, I'm not sure if you leave bones or other kind of recreational chews around the house.
We do. She's fine with toys. Like but food treat toys. So like the Kong, because Sydney was getting so anxious, she wasn't actually eating her peanut butter Kong. So when we would let her out of the crate after she was quiet, Ruby would immediately go and get that, and then she would guard that. She wouldn't,
right, because there was food involved. Right.
Yeah, right. But otherwise, toys, she's fine. The couch, I think, is mainly that if she's in a spot and and Sydney wants to eat
the couch is definitely Ruby's.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, just from the video, she got most stiff when she got on the couch, and almost like, oh hell no, little girl. Right.
And it's a big L-shaped couch, so they've been good. Like Sydney has gone, she will tolerate her sitting next to her as long as she's not touching her.
Mm-hmm. And that's, obviously safety is always our primary concern, but you almost need to let this play out a little bit.
Okay.
And that includes up to Sydney getting a nip from Ruby if Sydney decides to escalate her behavior. In other words, if Sydney's doing her thing and Ruby's correcting her and kind of managing it all along, it'll probably plateau. If Ruby gets to the point where, and it's usually associated with either lack of exercise or pain from teething, puppies tend to get a little too stimulated. Ruby may actually make contact with her. And again, from what I'm seeing, Ruby doesn't look like she's going to attack the dog. She'll correct and release, right? Well, you know your dog better than I do. I'm just going by a 1-minute video, but that's that's what I see from Ruby. So, what you don't, if that happens, if Ruby corrects Sydney and Sydney yelps, do not intervene. Don't run to Sydney's rescue. Oh my God, are you okay? The yelp is telling Ruby, I got your message, not so hard.
Okay.
That's what the yelp means. The yelp doesn't necessarily mean, oh, mommy, right? Right? It's communication between dogs. Now, obviously, if Ruby gets too physical, then you need to intervene. But at this point, because Sydney's only 14 weeks old, we do want to support how their relationship is going to develop based on Ruby setting thresholds for how Sydney should play with her.
Okay.
And because remember, it's only it's day 5?
Yeah.
Right. So
it's a long 5 days.
Yeah. Well, buckle up. It's not over. How's that for reassurance?
She's otherwise a pretty good dog. I mean, we're trying to remember back with Ruby, but we now say Ruby was she was a much easier dog than our 2 beagles were.
Ruby was hard to house train. She did not. I remember that. That stuff sticks with me.
Right. Yeah. The worst thing that can happen to us is when we just get one of those dogs where we don't have to do much with. It like totally spoils us.
And I don't know if it's just if she really was that good or if we just block it out.
Yeah, right.
Like when you have a baby, otherwise you'll never have another one.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, support that relationship, how it's going to develop. Use common sense. Obviously, safety and at this point, Sydney's physical well-being, needs to be in the forefront of our minds, but they need to be dogs too. Ruby needs to take that mom type of role and correct her when she needs to. The biggest challenge I saw in that video, at least from my perspective, especially because hounds drive me up a wall. I mean, I get all sorts of dogs here. When I get a hound, it's, you know, their vocalization can be tough on the entire house. So the challenge there is Sydney barking in defiance almost.
Right.
You know, so that's probably that's the biggest challenge. But you guys have had hounds, so you're used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ruby, Sydney's definitely more vocal than Ruby. Ruby's a pretty quiet dog.
Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, again, if you have other videos of them interacting, especially if you feel that Ruby's starting to escalate because Sydney's not getting the message, you know, if something like that pops up and you can capture that on video, just send it to me so I can look at it. And
Okay.
you know, and when possible, always take video like this so I can get both dogs' body language in the whole frame. Because if you do it like this, it cuts off the tail, because the tail tells me a lot. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So one of the reasons Steve for a very long time was against having a second dog, because when we had our first beagle, he was our baby way before kids. We eventually got a second dog thinking he would like that and keep him company when he had to go to the kennel and everything. And Steve probably, I think too, it kind of ruined his life. He was not, the second dog wanted to be with him all the time, every minute of the day. She really didn't care much about us too much. And all he wanted to do was be with people. He didn't want to be with her.
Sure.
So yeah, Shamrock.
The first dog.
So we're worried about that happening. Like, is Ruby happy as an only dog? Is there a time frame within like 2 weeks that we would know if she's comfortable? We don't want to ruin the next, 6-7 years of her life.
You don't know.
Yeah.
There's really no way to tell. Now, you've fostered dogs before, right?
2.
With Ruby?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How long were those fosters with you?
The first one she was about a year and a half old, and we had her for 2 weeks. And I think Bella tried to play with Ruby a lot. There was a lot more food resource guarding with her. And then I told Tony I was worried about fostering anything besides puppies now, because they started going at it a little bit more, where I had to physically separate them. And she was like a little tiny lab. And then, so when we fostered 2 months ago or a month ago, that one was only a 16, 17 week old hound pit mix, still with the food guarding more. Ruby's doing it less. She's doing a lot better with Sydney than she did with those 2.
Okay.
But that one didn't really want to play with Ruby too much. She kind of left Ruby alone.
I'm pretty certain that this is not bringing joy to Ruby's life.
Yeah,
Ruby's pretty happy doing what she's doing.
Yeah, I mean, she's the queen of the house, and now she's got to share that, right?
Yeah.
Which is not unique to Ruby. It's not to say that the girls aren't going to be buddies at some point, especially, let's fast forward 3 or 4 months. Sydney's going to be, more developed. So you'll know if Ruby's going to interact in a more playful way with her, or if she's still going to maintain that back off little girl role, which she very well may. I mean, if her quality of life doesn't change, she's going to acclimate to it in all likelihood, right? If her quality of life is impacted, meaning you start favoring Sydney and neglecting Ruby, which obviously doesn't sound like it's going to happen, but I've seen that happen in homes where people have a middle-aged dog, and then they get a puppy, and the puppy gets all the attention, and the older dog's life, their quality of life changed, right? So sometimes that could impact the dog. But right now, especially because at this point, Sydney has had way too much freedom in your house, so you're gonna confine Sydney a little more. She's gonna have more structure. Ruby's life, at least her what she's used to, won't change that much right now, because she still has her room, right, which is your bedroom. Mm-hmm. Right? So that hasn't been taken away. Are you walking them together?
I've started the last couple of days doing some walks by themselves, but that first morning, Ruby knows. She knows I get up, I take her out, and she knows that there's a walk. So I take them, and I have to, it's a struggle trying to get Sydney off of her because it's the first thing in the morning. She wants to play, but it's been going okay. We go for like a 2-mile walk, 1.5 miles. Walk, and Ruby's kind of, she doesn't usually snap at her. She just tries to move away or go on the other side of me. And like, I just want to enjoy my walk. Can you leave me alone? Kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously having a second handler would help, you know, as much as possible. But even if you're walking them together, you know, you keep one dog on each side of you.
Yeah.
You know, Sydney will get accustomed to walks and how they're supposed to, you know, the whole etiquette of the walk. She'll fall in line as long as you make sure you don't let Sydney continue to cross you over to Ruby's side. Let them have their own sides.
Right.
Even if you have to keep them on short leashes for now, or at least Sydney. Ruby probably is. She knows her walks, but you know, walking is a great way to build a relationship. It's also a great way, because the problem with puppies is they always want to play, and anytime Sydney is out, if she always wants to annoy Ruby, then yeah, that's going to impact Ruby. So getting Sydney used to being in Ruby's presence just for the purpose of doing something other than playing is helpful as well. That's why earlier I alluded to not allowing play in the house so much, but you don't have a yard, right?
No, we do. It's not a big yard. It's
enough for them to run around.
100 by maybe 40 for the backyard. It's fenced in.
Oh, beautiful. So you know, I mean, that's good. That's a good way to teach Sydney play is outside, inside is not for play. Right. And again, those are the rules in your house. You have to decide if you want to allow them to play in the house. That's fine. You know, I mean, I don't, just because I don't want dogs flying all over my house. I don't have a huge house, but you know, I have pit bulls, and like they play. I mean, I let them go a little more than my wife does as far as their intensity of play. But I mean, it's, you know, it's an intense play in the house. I don't want that. You know, I got parrots, I got a cat, I got dogs. You know, I want inside the house as calm as possible.
Okay.
Not that it's possible in my house, but you know what I mean. Right. So if you can kind of cultivate outside as play, inside as not play. Now, because Sydney responds to the squirt bottle, you can intervene if she's trying to initiate play with Ruby. Right? Because Ruby,
that's what we've been starting to do that.
Yeah, because Ruby is not engaging in play. She's just correcting her right now. So again, see how Ruby's role as authority, you know, the authority figure in Sydney's life, see how that unfolds. That might help Sydney, but if you want to cut off play altogether, then Sydney has to learn that there's no play in the house, you know. So
okay, we have seen like that once a day for about max maybe 3 minutes outside. Ruby will chase her around and play, but she still doesn't wrestle. When she was younger, she loved to wrestle other dogs, but now she'll just, for about 3 minutes, maybe once a day, she gets to where she chases Sydney around, basically chases her and growls until Sydney lays down upside down, and then she chases her a little bit more, and then she's done.
Yeah, and that's all part of the process of relationship building with them. You know, Ruby may get to the point where she's comfortable enough to wrestle with Sydney. She may not be wrestling with Sydney because Sydney's a puppy and she's practicing restraint, Ruby.
Okay.
Right, there is that possibility. But again, you know, with 14 weeks old, it looks like another month, Sydney's going to be a lot bigger. So
yeah.
And then as Sydney reaches a more physically mature stature, Ruby may engage in a little more physical play. Okay. And that's really when you'll know if Ruby's really comfortable. It's just a matter of time. There's really no way to tell. Especially your fosters have been pretty short-lived as far as their time in your house. Has Ruby ever lived with another dog?
No.
So Ruby.
I'm sorry. When we adopted her at about 4 months old.
And you had a beagle?
And no, we didn't. But she came from a foster home with 11 other dogs, like a litter of puppies and however many adult dogs. So just up until then, she was with other dogs. But
Yeah, so I mean, she at some, again, there's no way to anticipate or predict this, but she may get to the point where she likes having Sydney around, and right now nobody wants Sydney's mouth on them because it friggin' hurts, and Ruby is part of that. Right? Those puppy teeth suck. Um, but she's 14 weeks, so her puppy teeth will be gone in another month too. So.
Right.
So
But
it's not too early to start trying to train her on the walk, how to walk, or
not early. The earlier the better.
Well, we failed with Ruby though.
Yeah.
The only way I walk Ruby is with the gentle leader on, because she still will pull me down the street.
Yeah.
She won't pull me down the street, but it's not a comfortable walk for me because she pulls the whole time.
Yeah.
If we run, she's fine because she'll stay next to you. But otherwise, I use a gentle leader. I actually put the gentle leader on Sydney too, and she walks nicely with that on too. They hate it. They don't like it, but
I mean, if that training tool makes walks better and more enjoyable for you, you're going to walk them more.
Yeah.
So that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. So whatever you need to do to get those walks manageable, especially starting Sydney early is, definitely the earlier the better, no matter what the training is. So
any tips on training to walk, or?
So I mean, the one thing with training tools like gentle leaders, you're not really teaching them to walk on the leash.
Right.
So that you're just letting the tool do its job, right? But you could start using some kind of word, whether it's heel or easy, and then when she's walking by your side, praise her. Good girl. Maybe a little treat when she's walking by your side. But this is where walking the dogs as individuals as well is also part of the equation. You don't want to always walk them together. You also need to walk them as individuals, especially.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Especially if you're going to do leash work, because there's no way you're going to be able to leash train two dogs that aren't leash trained.
Right.
So we had a trainer for Ruby. I think we just gave up on the leash on him, but he was trying to get us to get Ruby to always look at us walking.
He said to keep her nose at our leg. Her nose should not be past our leg, because then otherwise she can't see what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be that strict with your heel, you can. I don't care if my dogs are out in front of me. They're not taking over leadership. I just don't want them pulling. Like, I'm a trainer. I don't have competition heel dogs because I'm not a competition trainer. They're my pets, right? I just, when I walk them, they need to walk, they need to listen to me, and they can't act like fools when they see other dogs. Those are my goals, right?
Right.
My goals may be different than yours. If you want a knee parallel heel, then that's what you need to reward. But if you have them on a short leash and their shoulders are at your knees, but they're walking well, right?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm fine with that. If it seems to be the farther out in front, if they're not just a couple steps in front of you, if they're too far right next to you, a little in front of you, then they cut in front of you, and then I trip over them. So
right. Yeah, and that's where you don't want them zigzagging, right? So, but the only way to create that behavior and to reward it is to work them individually, right? Because unless you're really skilled as a handler and you have a third hand, then you're good to go.
Right.
But then if you have two handlers, one for each dog, and you're working them together in that respect, that's fine. But any training, work them individually and then work them together. So, and remember, if they're shoulder parallel to your knee, then they're not going to cross you, right? They might try, but you could always block them. But yeah, if their ribs are by your knee, they're out. That's far enough for them to cut in front of you,
right?
Because they're big dogs. So if a Shih Tzu's ribs were by your knee, then so is their shoulder. So, right? So the position on the walk, it's really an individual thing, depending on how how strict you need or what position you need them to be in for you to feel comfortable on the walk. But yeah, basically shoulder up to the head is that's kind of the sweet spot that I look for. And when you're walking, if you have them on a short leash, in fact, let me see. Hold on a sec. Sable, come in. Get out of here, Goose. So can you hear me?
Yes.
So if this is, oh, come on, move. Here. So if I'm walking with Sable, come here. This is Sable, right? So if I have her on a short leash, right now she's shoulder parallel to my knee, right?
Okay.
So if I'm walking, this is my sweet spot, right? She can't go back, she can't go forward, and she'll always be in like this little section of my body. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
If you have the gentle leader on her, that's going to be even further back, right? Because the gentle
Yes.
is on her nose. Sorry. Now she thinks she's going for a walk. Does that make sense?
Yes. But
Yeah.
you had asked if there were, well, he said treats, and you had asked for tips on training.
Yeah, just trying to get the walk. I guess how do we trying to train on the walk, because we didn't follow through with Ruby. Ruby's fine for me, but I'm a little stronger. So
And that's where rewarding them, when you work them individually on walks, you have Sydney in that sweet spot area, right? Good girl. It doesn't have to be exuberant. If she starts pulling a little, the gentle leader is going to get her back in position.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically, if she's pulling, the gentle leader is going to activate. She's going to slow down. Good girl. You don't have to correct her. You don't want to correct her with a gentle leader. That's not what they're for. It's almost like a self-correcting collar,
Okay.
head halter. So when she pulls, she's going to feel the tug. She'll settle back into that area where she doesn't feel that discomfort.
Okay.
That's when you verbally praise, and you can give a treat. Now, I'm a big proponent of periodic sits on walks. So I might, when I'm leash training a dog, I will walk 20 or 30 steps, stop, make them sit, give them a treat, continue on the walk. And I'll do that every 20 or 30 steps. And that does two things. Obviously, it helps dictate the pace, but it also gets the dog conditioned that when I stop, they sit, right? So crosswalks, passers-by, whatever the case may be, if I stop, they sit, right? So the repetition of getting them to sit every time I stop with the sit command and then treats, ultimately, as soon as you stop, they sit. You're not even saying anything. And that's the difference between a dog that knows obedience and a dog that is obedient, right? Obedience is not synonymous with obedient.
Right.
I've seen some dogs that, I say it all the time. I tell all my clients, there's dogs that their obedience is much finer tuned than my own pets, but my dogs are so much more obedient, right? Half the time I don't need to talk. It's a snap of the finger, a look. Sometimes I use my body to herd them. If they're chewing on stuff in the house and I feel like they're posturing a little too much, I'll stand up, I'll stand in the middle. They both turn and bring their chew toys somewhere else, and that's that. Not that they ever fought, but I've had dogs that fought, so I'm pretty good about setting certain rules. And at first, we're using squirt bottles and words, but after a while, they're not, because they're obedient. And obedience commands helps us get dogs that are obedient. So the repetition of those structured walks will get Sydney conditioned to focus more on you. And you could teach her a look command, or watch me, or look at me, whatever you want to say. You could certainly do that, but sit does the same thing, right? If you need to choose one command that is super reliable, and what I mean by that is that behavior will occur under any circumstances when we give it, I would always opt for sit, because it helps manage so many situations. If our dog gets off leash for somehow, but they have a reliable sit, they will sit and we go get them. If we're at a crosswalk or we need them to get their attention on us, we stop, we make them sit. They sit, they look up at us, right? We could say look, it doesn't really matter. You could teach that too as two separate commands, but working, especially with a young puppy, if you get Sydney a super reliable sit, it's such an effective and useful tool for us to have at our disposal.
Okay.
Yep. But yeah, work on. I might have. Where's my pen? I'll send you a video. I might have a video that I did on deliberate walks. It might be on my 7-day challenge video. I'll find it. I'll send you the link. But it's literally, I just walk 20 steps, stop, make them sit. Walk 20 steps, stop, make them sit. And again, the repetition of that. And again, it's not just about controlling their, having teaching a reliable sit, but let's say the gentle leader works most days, but one day Sydney's just full of piss and vinegar and the gentle leader isn't helping. A structured, deliberate walk of 20 or 30 steps and sitting will help you control the walk, number one. Number two, having her have to work and perform every 20 or 30 steps, you can burn more energy in a quarter of a mile than you would running 2 miles with her.
Okay.
Because you're mentally stimulating her. And that's really the important part of the equation with deliberate walks is the mental stimulation part of it.
Okay.
So, yep. I think we covered everything from the messages. Was there anything else that you guys want to talk about?
No, I don't think so. So like the biting on like hard, like her trying to, when she's feisty or wants to play, things like that, just keep with the squirt bottle.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you can start verbally correcting her, whether it's no bite or and then giving her something appropriate to chew on. The problem is that sometimes they get bored of their toys. Having chew sessions in her crate might be a good idea. They have teething toys for puppies, things like chili bones. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
No, but she has a couple like water-filled toys that they sent.
Okay. Yeah,
like a teething ring, like these.
Yeah, those are good. The chili bones, you're supposed to soak them in water and freeze them.
Okay.
So what I like to do is I'll soak them in water, but put a little chicken broth in the water just so it has some aroma, and then freeze it, because then it helps numb the gums, so it alleviates pain. Because remember, that's the crux of her mouthing right now is she's in pain.
Now, would that be safe to leave in the crate with her?
Not initially. I mean, you can put it in the crate, but you want to supervise her. But they're pretty durable toys. You know what? Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Hang on a sec.
They're actually laying next to each other on the couch right now.
Aww.
So Sydney Ruby was laying down. Sydney walked over to her. Ruby just looked at her, picked up her head, gave her a stare, and kind of was like, fine, you can lay there.
That's cute. All right, let me see if I can share this real quick.
I'm still wrapping my head around, like, feeling like the bad guy leaving her in her crate all night tonight.
Yeah. Can you see that picture? Did it pop up on your end?
Yes.
Okay. So that's basically a chili bone.
Oh, okay. It's more like a nylon thing.
No, it's not. It's like fabric. Oh, what the hell is this?
Okay.
Oh, well, PetFlow just took over my screen. Oh, well. But you saw it.
Yes.
Oh, wait. Yeah. So, yeah, it's, yeah, so that's that. Yeah, it's more of a, I don't know if it's cotton or nylon or maybe some kind of cotton nylon blend, but you would soak it in water, freeze it, and then give it to her.
Okay.
And again, any toy you're giving a puppy for the first time should be given supervised anyway. I mean, hard rubber Kongs might be the exception because a young puppy's not going to destroy a Kong. So, but yeah, the chili bones are very effective.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and with Ruby and the teething, like I said, you almost got to kind of let Ruby handle it right now to see how that relationship is going to unfold. Okay. Because once Sydney nails Ruby a couple of times, Ruby's going to tell Sydney what hurts and what doesn't, right? So if Ruby does something to Sydney that's too hard, Sydney will yelp to tell Ruby, oh, I got the message, not so hard. If Sydney does something to Ruby that's too hard, Ruby's it's gonna be a different form of communication. So, yeah. So basically the same message is being relayed, but two different levels as far as, I hate to use the word submissive and dominant, but for lack of a better word, yelping is generally a submissive gesture or vocalization, whereas the growling is more of a correction. Okay. But they say the same thing. Right? Depends on who's giving the message and who's receiving it.
Okay. So I'm going to backtrack for a second for tonight, for crate training at night.
Yep.
So when we first put her in there, because she's definitely is getting better about quieting down. So you said take her out, like, right? If she starts to cry and then she settles down, then go ahead and take her out.
Yeah. Well, right. Tonight is kind of more proactive, where we're going to put her in at 9 o'clock because that's what time Steve goes to bed, right?
Tonight might be a little later, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we're going to put her in at 9 o'clock, and then
Okay.
we'll let her bark it out, which it might take a half hour, right? Or maybe even an hour, where she might have some peaks and valleys. Let's shoot for an hour and suck it up through a few peaks and valleys, right? Because she might bark, shut up, and then she might get a little restless and then bark again, have a little spurt, and then settle down, and then maybe let her out after an hour for her last nighttime out. And then you put her in for the night and just suck it up and let her bark it out. No matter
you
what
let her out, you take her outside, and we put her right back in?
No, you don't have to
No,
if you want to spend time with her. But remember, if you let her out, take her in the yard or for a quick pee walk, and then you're back inside and you're letting her run around and be active, she's going to have to go to the bathroom.
Right.
Whether she drinks water or not, if the body is in motion, so is the bladder.
Okay.
Right? So any puppy that's active could pee as often as every 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay. So
That's why,
her back. We could put her back in and then leave her for the night.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So, well, yeah, you're going to, 9 o'clock she goes in, let her go through her peaks and valleys for an hour or whatever. Then you would take her out when she's quiet, let her pee again. And then when you come back in, you put her in, she's in for the night. Unless you're coming back in and you're sitting down on the floor with her, you're petting her for a couple of minutes and she's calm, that's fine. But I doubt it because she's 14 weeks old. So.
Yeah.
Right now she's laying down probably because Ruby's letting her lay down next to her.
Right. She slept more. She slept more yesterday and today.
She's out cold. She's in dreamland.
Good. Awesome. But tonight and tomorrow is a couple of suck it up nights. Partly to help extend the time in the crate, but also to gather information to really see what you're dealing with. She's never had the opportunity to try.
Right.
We don't know. After an hour, she may just go to bed for the rest of the night, and you might hear her getting restless at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, which would be a huge accomplishment.
Now, if she quiets down for a couple hours and then wakes up, and I have been letting her out to go to the bathroom, should I worry about that she needs to go out to go to the bathroom, or should I just let her stay in there?
Once she's down for the night, she's got to be down for the night.
Okay.
Yeah.
If she starts stirring, let her cry again.
I'm sorry?
If she starts stirring, we got to let her cry it out again.
Yeah.
Okay. We pick an arbitrary morning time that we're going to let her out if she's quiet.
Well, if you're letting her out every 2 or 3 hours, right? If you can get to 4:30 or 5 o'clock and she didn't soil the crate, but she had a couple of vocalizations throughout the night, that's a success.
Okay.
Because remember, it's not just about the vocalization. We're trying to strengthen her bladder too, which she's never had the opportunity to do.
Okay.
So.
And during the day, you had mentioned about reeling her in and giving her less freedom. So during the day, we've been only putting her in the crate probably 3 separate times, like morning, afternoon, and dinner time. That's when we've been doing it. Should we be starting to keep her in the crate more during the day?
You can, as long if you can supervise her, that's fine.
Okay.
Now, are you guys working from home because of the virus?
Yeah.
So at some point, you're not going to be working from home.
Well, I'm a school nurse, so I'll have the summer off too. So I won't go back until the earliest will be September. Right.
So ideally, you want Sydney on your September schedule, not your July schedule.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
I can't tell you over the past 25 years how many conversations I've had with teachers. Oh, we're gonna get a puppy the end of June. No, don't get a puppy the end of June. Get a puppy in September. They're like, yeah, but I have the whole summer off. I'm like, that's why. You want the puppy on what your schedule is going to be, right?
Right.
So now, obviously, if you get a puppy on a Friday and you have to go to work on Monday, not a big deal. Right? You want to spend the whole weekend with the puppy, but you don't want to condition Sydney to, it's not just 2 months. It's going to be 8 months now of a home schedule where you guys are home. So utilizing the crate a little more during the day is important for when September rolls around.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were thinking we need to do that with Ruby again anyway, because she's now used to us being home. Now that when we leave, she pees in the house if we leave her now.
Yeah, separation.
Yeah, we were thinking we were going to have to recondition her too.
Yeah, and that's where, I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with people. I did. Did I do a video, a Facebook live on what to do with your dog? Anyway, I'm talking to myself. But yeah, the hardest thing for people was I was telling, look, you got to leave. You got to leave the house. Just go for a walk. Go to the supermarket. Take the whole family with you. That dog's got to. They have to get used to being alone again. Mm-hmm. So now you're in a unique situation where you have 2 dogs, which that helps take some of the edge off, right? When you do go back to work, they'll have each other. Even, in September, Sydney is still going to be crated when unsupervised, mm-hmm. but they'll still have each other's presence. So that'll take some of the edge off. People who are single dog homes, those dogs, I feel bad for them when their people go back to work, because, they've been living large and now all of a sudden they're left alone. People are going to come home to a lot of destroyed couches. So yeah, as much as you can utilize the crate, don't feel bad.
Okay.
Right. Just remember, you're setting her up for the rest of her life.
Okay.
So. Anything else?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. If any other video you can get me, just send to me, and then when this video it has to decode, it takes a little while. I'll send the link through Facebook in case you guys want to watch it again.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, guys.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, likewise.
Okay. Bye.
Well, that's another one in the books. And don't forget, if you like what you see, give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. Click that bell so you get notified when I upload new content as well. And thanks again. I appreciate you guys tuning in.